German Zeppelin Hindenburg, queen of the skies.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are doing a deep dive into a story of just, well, towering ambition, incredible luxury, and then a terrifyingly rapid failure. We're talking about the Hindenburg disaster.
Right, and when you look at the sources we have, it's so clear that the Hindenburg wasn't just, a big airship. It was a massive cultural and political statement.
I mean, just the scale of it. Try to picture a ship nearly 3 times the length of a modern jumbo jet. We're talking 245 meters long.
Huge.
They called it the Queen of the Skies, and it was the absolute peak of high-end travel. It was this spectacular symbol of German engineering, but also, critically, a huge propaganda piece for the Nazi regime.
And that symbolism is absolutely vital. It's why this one event resonated so deeply and really why it changed history. Our mission here is to go way beyond that grainy, iconic newsreel footage of the fire.
Right.
We want to unpack these sources to find out not just how it happened, but why this single event, this one catastrophe, basically just ended in an entire era of passenger travel.
And what it might mean for today, which is maybe the most surprising part.
Exactly. This potential airship revival we're starting to see now.
But here's the core fact, and it's one that's genuinely hard to wrap your head around. Despite being this enormous floating monument in the sky, the whole thing was over in a flash. From the first spark to the wreckage hitting the ground, it was engulfed and gone in just 34 seconds.
The 34 seconds. That speed isn't just a detail.
No.
It's the central, visceral fact of the tragedy. It tells you everything you need to know about the flaw in its design.
Okay, so let's set the scene before those 34 seconds begin. The sources describe the Hindenburg with this analogy that really sticks with you. It was like a massive floating skyscraper made of silk and gas. But inside, it was pure luxury.
Oh, it was a 5-star hotel at altitude?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this wasn't just travel, it was an experience. Passengers had private, twin-bedded cabins, not tiny little seats.
Right.
They had a dining hall with custom porcelain silver service for every meal, promenade decks where you could just stand and watch the Atlantic drift by below. It was unbelievable.
And the most incredible detail has to be the smoking room. I mean, when you think about what this thing was filled with, it's almost darkly funny.
It sounds insane, doesn't it? But it was a testament to their confidence in the engineering. The room was completely pressurized, totally insulated from the hydrogen. You couldn't even bring a lighter in there. There was one electric lighter bolted to the wall.
An airlock to get in and out?
An airlock, yeah. The perception of safety was absolute.
So this journey, this 3-day trip across the Atlantic, it was supposed to be routine. It ends at Lakehurst Naval Air Station in New Jersey, May 6, 1937. But things weren't quite routine by the end.
No, they were delayed by bad weather, which is a key detail. They had to circle for a while, and by the time they came into land, the conditions were not great.
Overcast skies, strong winds.
Exactly. The sources point to the atmosphere being heavily charged with electricity. Yeah, perfect storm conditions.
And that weather forced a really difficult final maneuver. The captain had to execute this sharp turn to get the ship aligned with the wind for the landing.
Which puts a lot of stress on a structure that size. They were fighting the elements right up to the last second.
So picture it. The airship is hovering. You have maybe 200 ground crew grabbing these thick, wet landing ropes. The final step. And then someone hears a loud bang near the tail. And immediately after, a flicker of flame.
And that's it. That's the moment. We have to keep coming back to that number.
34 seconds.
34 seconds. The question that just baffled everyone for decades was, how? How does a vessel 800 feet long just vanish in half a minute?
It seems like the fire would have to spread impossibly fast. Does that timeline mean it wasn't just one failure point?
Well, it wasn't. It was almost entirely down to the nature of the gas.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. It's incredibly flammable. When a pocket of it ignites, it doesn't burn, it pretty much detonates. The ship was made of these massive cells of gas. Once one went, the heat and pressure ruptured the next one, and you get this catastrophic chain reaction down the entire length of the ship.
So not a slow burn, a flash fire.
A colossal flash fire, exactly.
And that instant total destruction is what launched decades of debate. The event was over in less than a minute, but figuring out why took years.
Right, and you end up with 3 main theories. What's fascinating is how the politics of the 1930s really drove the first line of inquiry.
Which was sabotage.
Sabotage, of course.
It makes sense, given the context. You have this massive Nazi symbol. The immediate thought is anti-Nazi activists planting a bomb. Destroy the ship, you destroy a piece of German pride.
And that theory got traction right away. especially because some witnesses said they heard a bang before they saw the fire.
But the evidence.
Just not there.
Yeah.
They searched the wreckage. No bomb fragments, no timer, no residue. The motive was there, but the physical proof wasn't.
And the sources also mention that wild internal theory.
Oh, the Hitler theory.
That Hitler himself ordered it destroyed to spite Hugo Eckener, the head of the company, who was a known critic of the Nazis.
It adds this incredible layer of political drama, but again, like you said, it's just a theory. No evidence. It's a great story, but it's bad science.
Okay, so if we move past the sabotage narrative, you've got the weather. The third theory. A lightning strike. The obvious suspect.
It's an obvious candidate, right? Big storm, metal object in the sky. A direct lightning strike could have easily provided the spark.
But
the investigators looked into it and found that the ship wasn't actually in an active thunderstorm cell at that moment. And there was no evidence on the metal frame of the kind of massive electrical scarring a lightning bolt would leave.
So it wasn't sabotage, it wasn't a direct act of God. That leaves us with the theory that everyone eventually landed on.
The consensus theory, yeah.
Theory 2, static electricity and a hydrogen leak. Basically the idea that the ship was carrying its own doom.
This is where it all comes together. The most likely scenario is, well, a few things happening at once. First, that sharp turn in the high winds probably compromised one of the gas cells in the tail.
So you get a slow, steady hydrogen leak.
A slow leak. Now add the weather back in. The ship is flying through this electrically charged air, building up a huge amount of static electricity all over its metal frame.
And the skin itself was flammable too, right?
Highly flammable. It was linen coated with a kind of lacquer. So you have this cloud of invisible hydrogen gas leaking out near the tail and a giant metal frame above it that's supercharged with static.
Okay, so how do you get the spark?
The landing ropes. The moment the ground crew grabbed those wet ropes, they grounded the airship.
Ah, okay.
For a split second, you create this massive voltage difference between the ship's frame and the leaking gas.
And that difference jumps.
It jumps. A spark, maybe a few feet long, leaps through the air and ignites that hydrogen cloud. And from there, 34 seconds.
So it was the inherent material flaw. The hydrogen, that's the real legacy here, isn't it? The public saw, in the most horrifying way possible, that hydrogen gas was just too dangerous for commercial travel.
And that's where the story gets even more tragic, because it becomes about geopolitics. The German engineers, they knew hydrogen was dangerous.
They didn't want to use it.
They absolutely did not want to use it. They wanted helium. Helium is non-flammable, it's safe, and it gives you almost the same amount of lift.
But America had all of it.
America had a virtual monopoly on the world's supply. And with tensions rising before World War II, the U.S. government put a strict export ban on helium.
They saw it as a strategic resource.
A critical strategic resource. The U.S. Navy used helium-filled blimps for reconnaissance. They were terrified that Nazi Germany would use airships for military purposes, not just passenger travel.
So they denied them the safe gas.
They did. They prioritized national security over civilian safety abroad. It was a political decision that directly led to the Hindenburg being filled with, well, a highly flammable gas.
A giant candle, as one source put it.
Exactly. If that ban wasn't in place, the Hindenburg would have been filled with helium. That static spark would have happened. And nothing. The gas just vents into the air. The age of airships might have just kept on going.
Which brings us, fascinatingly, to today. If the only real problem was the flammable hydrogen, and we have plenty of helium now, is an airship revival actually possible?
It's more than possible. It's already happening. There are major companies right now developing a new generation of massive airships. They're using non-flammable helium, and they're projecting commercial flights by 2030.
But they can't be the same design as the Hindenburg, surely.
No, the designs have evolved. A lot of them are hybrid airships. They don't just rely on gas for lift. They're also shaped more like wings, so they get aerodynamic lift like an airplane. Much more stable, much more maneuverable.
So safer design, safe gas. The game has totally changed. And for anyone listening who cares about sustainability, this is the really big deal.
This is the ultimate selling point. The number one driver for this revival is the environment. These new airships, they use a fraction of the fuel because they don't have to fight gravity to stay in the air.
So what are we talking emissions-wise?
The projections are that they will produce only 1/10 of the carbon emissions of a standard airplane.
1/10? That's incredible.
It's a slower way to travel, for sure, but it's massively efficient.
So the whole story comes full circle. The Hindenburg was this symbol of luxury and power, but it was doomed by an engineering flaw forced on it by politics.
That's the core journey we've just unpacked, yeah.
Yeah.
A routine landing in a storm was all it took for 34 seconds of just total devastation because of a U.S. export ban on helium.
The lesson here for you, then, is this powerful, almost brutal intersection of engineering limits and political decisions. The Germans were building with a gas they knew was dangerous because a strategic helium ban left them no other choice. And that combination violently ended the age of airships for almost a century.
Which leaves you with a really profound question to think about. If it hadn't been for that U.S. export ban, that decision to put strategic security over civilian safety, would the age of passenger airships ever have ended? Would we today be gliding over the clouds with 1/10 of the carbon footprint, having maybe skipped the jet age almost entirely? It's a powerful thought on how politics and technology shape what we think of as inevitable history.